So
I'm just saying that, you know, they could have had right away, but they had to wait. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, it's been years since I looked at really Daniel 9. It's the most difficult text in the entire Old Testament by a lot of scholars' admission. It's just a difficult text if if you haven't studied it in a while. The gap idea would come in, I guess, after the 62 or 69 Messiah is cut off, and then the people of the prince come. Verse 26. So I guess that's where that 40 year. But I'm wondering if this 40 year, if this would be put in here. This is just speculation off the top of my head. The second 40-year Exodus that Hebrews mentions twice. That 40-year period. I don't know. I'm just going off the cuff here.
Yeah, I don't get how there can't be a gap. For a while, I thought maybe we could go straight, but just because for 1 week and in the midst of the week, he should cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. So it seems that week is when the sacrifices came to end, sometime around 70 AD or 66, like Armand thinks.
Yeah, well, they stopped sacrificing for the nations and for Rome. I forget when that was. One of the zealots that have Josephus here. I don't know, but that could be something as well. Yeah, well, that would be the middle of the week. It wouldn't be Messiah. It would be the actual stopping of the sacrifice during the war.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think you got it there.
How long is a week supposed to last now? What is it? 40?
7 years.
9 years?
7 years. Yeah.
So each day is a year.
Right.
Okay.
But it is weird to have a gap, you know, like you say, Stacey. It's like, okay, well, there wasn't really a good precedent per se. Like, you know, I'm going to have this happen, 350 days. And here I had 300 days, and then I had a gap of 10 days, and then I finished the 50 days later or whatever. We don't have a nice precedent for that.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a timeline or a countdown from when God promises Abraham to bring his children into the promised land. But it talks about when they came into Egypt, and then on that day of the 490 years or something, they left Egypt. So, I mean, there is that timeline, but there's no timeline of you're going to enter into the promised land on this week or this timeline or this date,
Right. He doesn't ever say, yeah, you're right. He doesn't say, like, on the October 5th of the year 1417, thou shalt enter the promised land. Right? That's what you were saying, right?
Not really.
What was he saying?
Something besides that.
I came back late. My bad.
So what do you guys, have you guys been following? I haven't watched any of Preston's series yet. I'm going to have to catch up. Did he get into the gap yet, guys? And what are your thoughts if you have watched?
He just went into the gap. I just watched that one. That's the only one of the Daniel series that I watched, is the most recent one that he had. And he said there is no gap, and I kind of agree with that. I fell
What'd you
asleep
eat?
in the middle of the video though, because I was exhausted. But you know, from what I've
He
heard
said
so far,
if there is no gap, it can't be true. That's what I think. I think maybe put the
yeah,
two
because he was
words
saying if
over
there was
together.
a gap, then Daniel would have been a false prophet or a liar, and that Christ would have been deceptive, or
I think
he
he was
didn't
saying it the
know.
other way around. That if there was like no gap, then he would have been the liar.
Well,
No, I think he was the
I mean,
other way around.
just look at the title of his videos.
right. But if there was a gap, then he like no, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? There's no 1, 2, 3,
No, that's not
4,
what he's saying.
5,000. You know, among other things.
See, his title of the thing says the 70 weeks of Daniel.
Yes.
If there is no gap in Daniel 9, the prophecy failed. That's the title of his video.
Really? Because I mean, like,
Yeah.
I mean, in the thing it says like to put an end to sin. Like, what does that mean to y'all? I mean, like, to me, that means that there is no more sin. It's an end. It's ended. There is no more. Like, you can't transgress.
Yeah, but you have to include destruction of the holy city.
I
Yeah.
wish we could. I wish we could review it, but we're live now, and I don't know if that would be allowed.
Yeah, of course it's allowed. Anything's allowed.
Do we just turn the live off, or is that important? Does that matter?
Yeah, we don't have to have live.
Yeah, who cares about that?
What?
Nobody cares, man. Turn it off.
What?
Unless you're in it for the views.
What?
If we play the Don Preston video, will you get flagged? Will you?
Why
You
do
don't
we-
want you to get flagged.
It's okay, Albert. It's all good, man.
God, why do we have to play a video like
Oh, look! What are you in it for, man? You in it for the knowledge?
for anything? So like,
Because I guess I misunderstood the video because they're saying it's different from what I had said, but I was exhausted when I was
we
listening
turn
to it.
off the live recording so we can watch some fucking video? Or you
Whoa! How about if we have no filthy communication come out of our mouths, and you know what I mean?
You frustrated him.
Peter, you have no idea right now.
Oh,
You're teetering.
I'm teetering on what? Your view count?
No.
According to Hebrews 6:6, you need to repent or you're done for forever. So
That's right, brother. We're trying to help you out. How about that?
No, you
forever.
are.
One
You're
sin,
helping
not
out
Hey,
people.
That's it. Not
Forever. How about
not
that?
total apostasy, but one sin. One sin. You just said
Albert,
the F
Albert,
word.
Albert, you better get it straight. I'm trying to
I'll make
pull you
like
out
a
the
hippie.
fire.
I'll make like a hippie in peace. I'll hippity hoppity right out of here. I don't care.
Well,
No, don't do that, Albert. I just remembered
you
your
do.
name too.
Who just left? Did Rob leave?
No, he'll be back. He just got his connection.
Maybe he was just disappointed at your
Look,
lengua, your languase.
whatever, dude. Oh, because I dropped an F-bomb?
Hey, whoa! F-bomb is like almost like saying it. You might.
I know, it's like saying feng shui or something, or like Buddha,
No, it's like
or
man,
like
it's
Allah. You're not allowed to, those are like the A word.
well, you shouldn't
Don't
say
say
Allah.
Buddha.
You shouldn't say ALLH because you're not supposed to talk about the names of the gods.
I can talk about Allah all I want.
Well, you can, but then it kind of makes you a hypocrite when you're talking about the Bible and it says don't do those things.
No, I'm not talking
Don't
about.
even
I'm
repeat
talking
them.
about-
It just don't even repeat their names.
Well, that's the thing. My point is there is no sin. If you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then there's no sin anymore because
Well, I disagree according to the book of Hebrews where it says
it says there.
if you do those things, not even more is there a coverage.
That's for
They
the
don't even
old.
cover you.
That's for the old way, though. That's for the old.
Okay, get the record on. Let's discuss Hebrew.
The record has been on.
Hey, it's been
Oh,
on,
I
man.
was gonna say I'm in for the views.
Do it. Do it.
Yeah.
At least he's honest. Do it.
Well, I like this guy.
Do it.
All 8
Floor is
views.
yours.
Oh. Hey, Albert, you know I love you, bro. I'm just
I know.
busting.
It's okay. If
Okay,
you,
I thought
busting
you were
your
serious.
labels.
Are you guys serious about Hebrews, or were you're joking?
No, I like Hebrews because that's what I was bringing up right before you said it.
No, but were you joking when you went to the text, or
No, because that's what it says. It's like if you say there's no sin, well, according to Hebrews, it says that even if you know like the truth and you continue walking in your way, even the blood of Messiah doesn't cover you.
Okay, what there's Hebrews 6 and Hebrews 10.
I still love you, bro.
Of course, brother. It's fine.
I feel like that was like
No, I'm telling you though, like if you ever
it's
want
like,
me to,
hey, I love you too, bro.
hey, I'm only doing this for you. So if you want me to relinquish at any time, I'm all good. Like I'm paid up.
Whoa. See, I mean, even that animosity in your voice, I can say, like, I was one of these guys that I like, you know, when you smell a little caca in there, pick up on it.
I guess you heard it wrong. I was saying at any time you wish to take back the reins, they're yours. This is your hangout, not mine.
No, it's God's hangout. I didn't do any, you know.
This is whatever. You're the one who started it, and you're the reason.
Whoa.
I'm here.
Nah. All I know is I love you, and you're a great brother.
Okay, cool.
That's all I can stand on. Besides, all the rest doesn't mean anything.
Fair enough.
I'll just say I disagree with your take on Hebrews 6. That's
all right,
it.
do it. Go.
All right. Well, let's jump there. Let's get this disagreement and agreement, Laurel and Yandy, going.
Is it Hebrews 6 or 10 that you?
Hey, you know what? We're already in confusion, so now we're just really off the track.
Do it. Let's do it. Like, come on. No sidetracking though. Don't do the dancing around bullshit. Come on now.
Whoa, filthy communication guy.
Dude, I don't even know what you're talking about. They're just words. They're just letters arranged in certain ways.
Well, I mean that's what we call excuses, but that's cool.
All right. Fine. My bad.
That's like me saying, "Hey, I can kill a deer, but I could also put a knife into a little baby, and you know, it's the same thing. It's just skin and a human." Well, no, it's two different things. But okay, hey, whatever works, bro.
You are correct. You are correct. Such vivid examples.
Hey, I mean, I like to keep it, fresh. I think if you give a a simple analogy, it doesn't really get it. But if you go in there, boom, and you jab it with the
bone slicers,
Yeah, it's like, whoa, I get you.
But anyway, let brother Joel here speak, because I think there's been some times where he said some things in the past where you were like, "What? Whoa, flag!" Let's hear.
It depends on what mine was working in. I don't know who Chris or Christopher. I got two.
Are you Chris Robin right now, or are you Chris?
Schizophrenia. It's got a mind of its own.
All right. Well, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Well, it's in Hebrews 6 and Hebrews 10 especially. But I've written on this extensively and I've done videos, so I mean, I kind of have an advantage with Hebrews 10. I don't believe this is total apostasy, Hebrews chapter 10, 25 through 39. It's not, okay, you committed one sin and that is it. First in verse 25, they were neglecting the assembling together because I believe these are Jews in Palestine still going to synagogue, but they were avoiding Christian fellowship. Verse 26, for if we go on sinning after receiving the knowledge of the truth, what's the knowledge of the truth? The gospel. There's no longer remaining to sacrifice for sins, but a terrifying expectation of judgment in the fury of fire will consume the adversaries. I'll go down to verse 29. How much severe punishment do you think will those that deserve, who have trampled underfoot the Son of God and have regarded unclean the blood of the covenant, by which he was sanctified and insulted the Spirit of grace? Well, that goes back to Hebrews chapter 10, 10 through 14. I'll just read 14. For by one offering he has perfected for all time those that are sanctified. And then we go on in verse 30, vengeance is mine, I will repay. And again, the Lord will judge his people. That's Deuteronomy chapter 32. Deuteronomy 32 is used in Acts chapter 2:40. Repent of this perverse generation. AD 70. It's used in Romans chapter 10, 6 through 21, when Paul speaks of national Israel. AD 70. Revelation 19, 2, speaking of Babylon and the rejoicing of the martyrs. AD 70. 2 Peter chapter 2, Deuteronomy 32 is used as well. This is speaking of judgment upon the persecutors and those that would go back and totally apostatize and reject Christ. It is a verse 31, it is a terrifying thing to fall into the hands of the living God. But remember the former days when, after being enlightened, that's being quickened, the inner man being converted, regenerated. After being enlightened, you endured great conflict of sufferings. This is persecution, Jewish persecution. Partly by being made a public spectacle through reproaches and tribulations, and partly by becoming sharers with those who were so treated. For you show sympathy to the prisoners, so on and so forth. Do not throw away your confidence, which has great reward. This is total apostasy. And again, verse 37, but yet in a very little while, he who is coming will come and will not tarry. And so we have two time statements. Verse 25, they were seeing the definite article, the day approaching. And then verse 37, you have in a very, very little while, he will come, and he that's coming will not tarry. And so Hebrews chapter 10 is clearly, because it's comparing what Christ has already done as a high priest. He sanctified you, you rejected that sanctification. It's making that comparison there. And under their persecution in Palestine by the Jews, they were, I mean, if you got a gun to your head and someone says, hey, reject Christ, a lot of people would actually do that. And so that's the situation here. And the situation is vengeance and the coming of the Lord, further persecution. Just like we see in 2 Thessalonians 1, Revelation 6, Luke 16 through 19, Matthew 21 through 24, so on and so forth. Vindication of the martyrs, of all the blood shed upon the earth. But yeah, that's about it for Hebrews 10 anyway.
I look at, you have to really define what fall away is, and I think verse 35 is really given the definition, because it's a therefore do not do this, and that's do not lose your confidence. So if you start losing the confidence in the blood being shed for you, and that you're going to have to like turn back to the law or that type thing, I think that was what was going on during that time. I think that's what the falling away into apostasy would be. Because you've got 1 Peter chapter 4 where it says love covers a multitude of sins. So I mean, if you're doing the work of Christ, you're walking his walk, then some things that are pattern habits to us, we're still going to do for a while at least. But I think the losing the confidence in Christ, I think that's the main thing, because that's I think Matthew had mentioned there's really only one sin, and that's lack of faith, disbelief.
So you don't see this as a historical context with persecution, and then
Sure. I mean, persecution is a part of it, because persecution can cause you to lose your confidence. Why am I being persecuted? Why am I not prospering? God doesn't love me anymore. He's turned his back on me, kind of thing.
If you go to Hebrews, the very same chapter, the confidence is mentioned. Therefore, brethren, verse 19, since we have confidence to enter the holy place by the blood of Jesus, by a new living way. And so that's where their confidence lied. And Hebrews 3 through 4, I think, mentions it as well. But their confidence laid in that, and yet they were going to reject that.
Right, and that's the falling away.
Just one second, guys. I got my sister here just dropped in. I'll be back in a second there. Just hold your thought.
Hi, sis. Hi.
Just one second here.
Who are you talking?
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how we got into Hebrews all of a sudden necessarily, but speaking of Daniel 9, definitely. The two things are the he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, who dat, and the other thing is, the 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy city to finish the transgression and to make the end of sins. That's what I'm saying, end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity. This seems like an all does mean all type here, right? Everlasting righteousness, seal up vision and prophecy. I don't know. It seems like in all, everything's done. I don't see how that you can have more after that.
I agree.
So there's no longer sin per se. Yes, there's still bad things you could do, evil things, but it's not sin anymore. Like the sin is taken care of. I'm not entirely sure how to reconcile that with this, world that we live in, where you can see evil stuff still happening. But like, as far as I can read between these pages, nowhere in these pages does it say ever that he's going to make the earth a peachy, lovely place. You can't get any paper cuts. You can't stub your toe. Tigers won't try and eat your face off. Like, I'm pretty sure they're still going to do that. Like, ticks are still going to be evil no matter what, as long as we're on the earth. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's the way I see it. It's a spiritual kingdom. And so there's always, if there's something spiritual, there's always like a physical and a spiritual counterpart. So I guess you could say there's a physical righteousness and then there's a spiritual righteousness.
Sure. But I don't ever think at any point in time like ticks were like doing something other than what ticks do. Like they've always been ticks, right? Is that what you would say? Like they've always been blood-sucking little jerks.
Yes, I would say that. And mosquitoes have always sucked blood.
Every time where they weren't like that. They were always sucking blood and always being evil, like that. But it does serve a purpose though, doesn't it? Like, if you think about it, would the whole thing work if those guys weren't doing their job?
Well, I hate ticks, and I can see a world without ticks very easily because, I mean, they're so small. I mean, they're not really a food source for anything that I'm aware of.
Well, see, but that's for you in a human environment. But what do you know about what kind of magic they might work in the wild? Like... You feel me? Like, there's only one person who knows about the scientific study about that, and it's not us. It would have to be God. When's the last time a study was done to carried out about like the lives of ticks? Like, come on, nobody's done that.
Now, mosquitoes are a food source for birds and fish, so I can see that. But a tick is so small and meaningless that I can't see
exactly
them really be, or lice.
Well, anything like that. Like, think about it. Just think about a scorpion for a second. Like, how is the scorpion designed? The scorpion's got two massive pincers in the front. It's got armor on its whole body. It's got legs that are capable of helping it grab things with its pincers, and it's got a stinger, a hypodermic needle. Like, okay. You feel me on this? Like, you see where I'm going with this? Like, it's clearly designed. It's not like willy-nilly put together or anything. Like,
yes.
Things are 100%.
It's not arbitrary.
No. It's all on purpose. Oh, welcome back. Suppose you're doing that on purpose, Peter?
That's the good stuff.
That must be the good stuff. If he makes it
that's what they,
like
yeah.
He's taking the monster ribs.
Natural tobacco.
He's about to educate us.
I know you hear me.
That's right. We were talking about you, Joel.
I have some natural tobacco cigarettes somewhere around.
Oh shit!
Whoa, lengua, people.
Oh no, I didn't know. I thought I had the audio on. I didn't know I had the camera on. That's not good.
You did it.
And the mic.
You added it to the universe. Your fault.
We're not recording, are we?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on record.
Oh well.
Hey, don't worry about it. I mean, I've been recorded being in an altered state, so don't worry about it. We're all human.
Nobody watches these.
I was here that week. Who's? Yeah.
Yeah, that was me. That was me. Right. I just was overwhelmed at that time. So
You kept saying like I love you guys. I love or something. I love you guys. I love you.
No, he kept saying like,
well, that just goes to show you that no matter how many inhibitions have been removed from me, I'm still to the core of my bone. I love you, brother. So,
Amen, brother.
you know, I'm not like an angry drunk or anything like that.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
No, I mean I was in the same boat as you, brother. That's why I smoked this so my pancreas doesn't fall out or I don't end up in another coma. I just
exactly.
I've since, you know, taken steps to correct that though. So, you know, because I want to be sharp-minded too when I'm here.
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm sorry. That was she just picked some stuff up in first one of the day. So sorry, guys. We'll let that. We'll just forget. But anyway, yeah, okay.
It is what it is. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's it. I
You know,
figure it's
you know.
Well,
Just like they say in the Bible, one day is more important than the other. We all got different views. One believes, we don't. It don't really make a difference. If somebody got a problem with it, well, then they got their own issue they need to figure out.
well, I promote it even on Facebook. Like not to be a smart, you know, but just to educate people on the benefits of it. You know, people battling alcohol and other addictions and bipolar and post-traumatic stress, things like that. Just the benefits and whatnot. But anyway, so I'm not ashamed or anything. Just live here on your guys' video, I didn't really want to do that.
I look at it like this, man. There's a plant on this earth that's all got different purposes. And every kid that got seizures and starts smoking CBD and stops having them, or somebody who's stressing and they don't stress, if somebody looks upon that as a bad thing, then that's unfortunate.
That very well said. Very well said.
The Bible talks about wine as being able to comfort you after you've worked really hard, but yet at the same time, it can be dangerous too. So, I mean, and it's true. So you just have to sort of take things in moderation, you know. But I look at things like that as medication. So you use medication for a temporary period. And that's what I did at that time until I could refocus.
Well, yeah, I remember coming out of Adventism and their abstinence, you know, like a lot of the Pentecostals and Baptists. You know, I just finished my Baptist. Mormons. Yeah, and the Mormons. I just finished my Baptist beer, and they take these texts out of Proverbs and that, which talk about the drunk tarrying after the strong drink, night to day, and things like that. And they take these texts out of context, which are speaking of the alcoholic. Actually, that's what these texts are speaking of: the guy that tarries from night or from morning to night, and things like that. And then they ignore John chapter 2 and Paul saying the bishops, the overseers, are to have no wine, but the deacons are to be given to a little bit. Well, does that mean, in their interpretation, the wine there would be grape juice? The bishops are to have no grape juice, but the deacons can have a little bit. I mean, does that, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't fit. You know, it's not consistent.
So what you guys are saying with having a few drinks, moderation, yeah, that's fine. But yeah, obviously tearing after it all the time, becoming an idol, it is sin, is gross sin.
Right. Right. So you do it, you get completely inebriated for a while or something, then you start getting convicted. If you ignore those convictions and you don't make changes, then yeah, it starts to become true sin, but we're going to stray here and there a little bit here, but we get back on the right path. But if you stay off the path, then that's where I think it starts to get where it's sin. But as far as the weed's concerned, I don't see a problem with that at all. That should be, full. I can't see that in excess myself. Alcohol, I can see in excess. Well, I guess in a way that if you're just completely stoned,
you can smoke weed in excess. You can.
I guess you can, right?
In a sense, where you can't drive if you're smoking. If you're sitting there smoking a gram joint to yourself or something, I mean, of some good kush, you're not going to be driving, even if you're experienced. But
so I guess you can.
I know what you're saying. Up here, just 2 weeks ago, in the liquor stores, they're selling pot now. The government has regulated it, and I said it's a money grab. I always said that, like the tobacco and alcohol up here. Tobacco companies get $1.35 for a pack of smokes. And guess how much a pack of smokes for a good pack is up here in Canada? $18. Cheap pack, $15 a cheap pack.
Wow.
And and so I said this is a money grab, and so but they're even selling it in the stores now. That's how accepted it is up here in Canada. A lot of people are waking it up to the benefits. Like the old saying, the weed maintenance cure gets a lot of guys, if they're on the methadone and whatnot, off the heroin. A lot of guys off booze. Helps guys with bipolar. Just many different things.
Kratom does that too, and they're trying to demonize kratom.
What? Pardon me. What is it?
Kratom.
Kratom.
It's an herb.
Rather than
KRATOM. KRATOM. It's an Asian herb, and they found that it actually works better than methadone, and it can actually get you off the methadone, and the big drug companies don't like that.
No. Obviously not. And methadone's not even something. It's better than whatever, but it's still not something healthy at all.
Right, and this is natural, and so it can help you with addictions. And it actually, you can kind of feel euphoric. It causes you to feel euphoric.
Yeah, like methadone.
Right, but they say, but it does have a tolerance or so you can get tolerant to it. So they say just take two doses a week or so, and you'll get all the benefits from it, and being able to get off addictions and stuff like that. It can help with anxiety, but so can a lot of herbal teas.
Geez, I'll have to look that up. My father, he was like an amateur, like a holistic and a herbalist. He would order the 2-pound things of powder, like very, very expensive. And he would make up his own formulas. He put like 14 different, and he had all these formulas. He was selling he was pretty much a amateur herbalist. I just wonder if, because my sister has a bunch of his herbs, he might even have this. I think he told me before he had over 140 different bags, like 2-pound bags of herbs, but he might even have that. But I never heard of that one. But the big pharma, they don't like the herbal industry. You can't say a cure with herbs. I guess it's illegal. But.
Actually, that herb is actually illegal in some states. In other states, it's not. So it's really big controversy right now.
Well, yeah, big pharma. Yeah.
But it can yield the same type of euphoric feeling that methadone can give, and help get you off of other drugs. And then you just have to get off the kratom. Some people are saying, "Oh, kratom's just as addictive," but I haven't seen that.
Okay.
Did you guys watch that video or?
Of the Don Preston? No, we haven't watched it. I think we'd get flagged if we played it when we're live.
Gotcha. Decided to keep going live.
Yeah.
What you guys been talking about the last little bit?
How to live life.
Yeah, pretty much. It was just
How to fall down and get back up.
Well, that's the thing. Either you're going to keep getting back up, or one of these days you're just going to fall down and that's it. That's the way I look at it. So many times, even in the last 3 or 4 years, I quit going to the gym for a period of length, a month or two, and then go back for a month. So slack with it, and with the metabolism, that lean muscle that I would have would just strip off easy, and discouraging to go back. But yet I did it, probably 100 times, and I'll keep doing it, until that consistency's built in, so yeah, that's the ticket right there.
What would help me in the exercise realm is to watch motivational videos of it, and consistently continue to watch those. And
before the gym, it's a must.
I didn't think you were here. No worries. Relax now. Did you ever look into the resurrection anymore, Joel? I know you kind of had some questions on that. I'm wondering if had any revelation or anything.
No, well, not yet. After my debate with Stephen Whitsett, I'll be studying resurrection and one or two other things. That's in early January 3rd and 4th. So after that, I'll be looking into resurrection. Right now, because of the debate topic, resurrection won't be really coming up. But I have to restudy resurrection. But I'm still convinced, studying it before, and even just a simple reading of the New Testament, that the individual body view is much closer to the text than the corporate view. I would say that.
Hey, Armin.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
Not
I think
too bad.
the first time I ever said your name, maybe halfway right.
Oh, yeah. No, it's one of those things. Honestly, like we're most people I think default to Armand, but like I don't even worry anymore. It's just like it's one of those things where yeah, I don't even bother with it anymore, because sometimes people will say it right and then they'll go revert back. So I don't stress. I'm not that important.
So it's okay if I call you Armand from now on?
If you do, I'm not going to sweat it.
It wasn't until, I had heard one of your personal friends came on and he was calling you Armand, and I thought, well, that's kind of strange. But then when I looked at your Facebook page, on there, there's a thing of this is how you pronounce it, you know, and I thought, okay, all right. But sometimes I'll start going back to Armand because Zach is the one that just put it in my mind that it's Armand, you know.
Yeah. You know, and like I said, I really don't sweat it at all. Like some people will get all like, no, it's pronounced this way, but I'm like, you know, it's one of those things. But
So
technically, yeah, it's pronounced
the
Armin, but
Father. You're kind of like the Father in Jesus, right? It doesn't matter. I mean, you know who's talking to you, right? It doesn't have to be
that's correct.
Yahushua or whatever.
Right. I don't think that's a salvational issue. So yeah.
Did you have a nice Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. We went over to the in-laws' house, and we really didn't stay there too long. Yeah, we ended up going to, oh gosh, did some shopping that night or yesterday night. So got some luggage and clothes and stuff. But yeah, that was it. What about you all?
I went to a church, Episcopalian, which was my first service from them, and it's kind of
Okay.
interesting. But they found out that I played the harp, so they sort of like volunteered me to play the harp for them for Christmas Eve at their 10 p.m. I'm already
Okay.
playing at my 7 p.m. At my church, so I'll be playing all Christmas Eve now.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
At least it gives me something to work on because I don't play Christmas songs all the time, and now I've got to like start practicing all these Christmas songs and stuff
Yeah.
this month.
No, that's cool.
I mean, now we got 10 people. We could totally rock Daniel 10. Right, we did 9 last time.
We could totally do that.
Yeah.
You hear that?
Yeah. I'm just gonna step away for a little bit, but you guys can continue on. I'll be back.
Or not. Whatever.
Yeah, what were you all discussing when just when I was getting on?
Different ways we can fall away but get back up, kind of thing.
Really?
What does falling away mean in Hebrews 10 and Hebrews chapter 6 and
Okay.
different things like that.
That's good.
Then we were talking about Don Preston's video about if there is no gap, then Daniel is a false prophet or something. And I've always kind of looked at it as there's not a gap, but either there's a 40-year gap or a 2,000 plus year gap or something. I'm not sure where they're getting the gap from. And I mentioned that if you can show me some type of prophecy other than Daniel, where there was a clear gap,
Yeah.
then there's no precedent. But if you're saying, well, all these other prophecies took place when they took place, but here Daniel, oh, well, by the way, in Daniel there is a gap, then that's like a sore thumb kind of thing. It just sort of sticks out.
Yeah, so like a gap between, because I think the other day we were talking about a gap between the 69th and 70th week, or are you talking about a gap between like the first half of the 70th week and the last half of the 70th week?
Either way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, either way. Because I know that the prophecy of leading the children out of the first Exodus, it says that when they left, it was on that day that it was the 490 years or how many years it was, you know. So that was that. It never actually gave a prophecy of they would enter into the promised land at this particular time.
Yeah. Well, I would have to agree. I don't know if he was referring, or if he was, you know, if he believes in like a gap between the first half of the 7th week, or the 70th week and the second half of that. I wouldn't agree with that, but I would agree with, at this point I believe there had to be a gap between basically what would be, I guess, the 69th and 70th week, because the things described in the 70th week, we don't see those things happening until at least 40 years after Christ was crucified. So I think that's where, because basically otherwise, so like if you went 70 weeks straight, what would happen is you'd have so you'd have Christ crucified, and then you'd have basically another 7 year period, and then Jerusalem would have been destroyed, and the resurrection would have occurred during that time. You kind of catch what I'm saying?
Okay. I've just never really like worked it out on a
Yeah.
timesheet or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is kind of weird because it like I don't mean, as far as I know, there is no real precedent for that, for like a gap. But just looking at it historically, well, we just have to ask the question: did all those things happen within 7 years of Christ being crucified, or 7 years from the 69th week? And I think history would tell us like, nah, that didn't quite happen.
So what if you took the 70th week, at the end of the
Mhm.
70th week, and you counted back 40 years or so where Christ was be crucified? What week would that be?
If you count it
Would that
back,
be,
okay, got you.
would that be like
So
the 62nd week or something? Because
No,
there was
he
some
no,
things
no,
going on there, right?
cut
you'd
off
have
during the
like
70th.
What's
what's
that?
that?
No, I was just going to say he's cut off during the 70th there.
So I don't, I see, like the way I've read that, like it says after, I think it says like after the 62nd or something like that. I can't remember. It says like
Yeah.
after it, but it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean, I don't know if it necessarily means during the 70, because check this out, right? So
Shall Messiah be cut off?
what's that?
Is that what you're talking about? And after
Verse 26.
after
Oh yeah, let me go to it.
3 score and 2 weeks, shall Messiah be cut off? But not
Yeah,
for
let me go to it.
So
Because
if you just entertain it this way, is that, okay, at 62 weeks, that would be the crucifixion. Then would that allow for that 40-year period to end up in week 70?
No, well, in the last week, we do know, and it says in the midst of the week, he is cut off. Then 3.5 years later, if we're doing the calculation by verse 27, we have the destruction of Jerusalem. But I was just going to make a quick point, guys, that some say the Persian records could be missing some years, and that could be one of the major problems of a mathematical, calculation for the 70 weeks.
Well, we already know that the timelines are all messed up. Like the history of what the mainstream says is definitely all out of whack with what this says.
so let me see here. 70 weeks, seal of division. Let's see here. Okay, so verse 25. Know therefore and understand from the going forth of the command to restore and to build Jerusalem until the time of an anointed prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. So basically, that's, I think, where we're getting our 69 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So 7 weeks and 62 weeks. So that's 69. It shall be built again with open spaces and a moat, but in times of distress. And after the 62 weeks, so basically after the 69th week, an anointed one shall be cut off and shall have nothing. And the people of the prince who shall come shall destroy the city in the set apart place. And the people of the prince who shall come shall destroy the city and the set apart place, and its end shall come with the flood. Until the end, there shall be war, desolations are decreed, and he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. So here's my understanding of that. If you read it carefully, it says after the 69th week, that's when Christ is cut off. But the thing is, if you really look at it closely, it doesn't say that he's cut off during the 70th week, because what happens in the 70th week is actually verse 27. So like it says here, and he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, and in the middle of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the offering to cease. And on the wing of abomination shall come one who destroys even until the consummation and the decreed end is poured out. So kind of what, I don't know if you all were on yesterday or who all was on yesterday, or not yesterday, but Wednesday. The thing is, this verse 27, is dealing with the abomination of desolation being set up, as well as the sacrifice coming to an end, which is specifically addressed in Daniel 12. And so all of that occurs in the middle of this week, right? So in order for, so if it is one thing, and I don't think there's a separation between the two halves of that 7th week, like 40 years. I think the separation is between the 69th and 70th week. So that's where I'm seeing, like, yeah, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Not quite. You've kind of lost me there. I can see that there'd be a gap in the middle of the week, but
that makes sense. But like, I don't know. Like that makes sense if you maybe just read 9 by itself. But what about when you take that with 10 as well? Because I mean, it does go 9, 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say the Messiah
there, and then it goes into the one that we're about to read. So.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 26 is emphatic that after
Correct.
After the 62, that's the 69. So
right.
If we're counting in, after 69, it's not anything but 70.
But see, that's the thing. I'd say that's an assumption.
It could be 71, 72, 70.
No. See, that's the thing, though.
It can't because it's 70 weeks.
No. But okay. But think about this, right? So think about this. It cannot be. I would say it cannot be 70 consecutive weeks, right? And here's why I'm going to say that. So 69 weeks, right? Or let's put it this way. After 69 weeks, Christ is cut off, right? So that's him being crucified. We all agree on that, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So the thing is, let's say that Christ is crucified at the very beginning of the 70th week. Okay, what does that mean? If that does occur during the 70th week, and it really is 7 more years, that means the destruction of Jerusalem, or basically the putting of the sacrifice, the destruction of Jerusalem, the resurrection of the dead, all had to occur within 7 years of Christ being crucified. That's what that means. Think about it.
Yeah, yeah, of course. That's one of the things I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I see. I do see what you're saying there, Amon. But that's why this is such a difficult text, where there's no poetically fit this. Even the Maccabean thesis that says it's Antiochus, they have even more problems than us Christians.
I think, yeah, I don't know. I think it's look, for me. I'll say this for myself. I think it can easily be resolved because, okay, here's the thing. If we just look at what is explicit in the text, okay, so I asked myself the question, okay, does it have to be consecutive, or let's put it this way, does everything have to be within consecutive weeks? Okay, historically, I'd say I don't even think that's possible given the way things actually played out historically, just based on what I mentioned. But then if you even, like I said, look at what it says here, it doesn't say that within the 70th week Christ was killed. If you build off of the, I guess, presupposition that, okay, if it's after the 69th week, then it has to be during the 70th week, then yeah, I definitely get that. But if you don't build off of that presupposition and you just say, okay, sometime after the 69th week, Christ is cut off. Okay, then if you look at all of the events that happen in the 70th week, which is, okay, we're told in the middle of that 70th week, the sacrifice comes to an end, and then also the abomination of desolation is set up. I don't think you have any problems there.
Well, that's what I mentioned, I think, before you came in, was the fact that it seems that there's 7 years in between. But what was I going to say here? The Messiah would be cut off after the 69th, and then something else happens, and the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary, and he will make a firm covenant. And so after the 69th week, we have the destruction of Jerusalem and the cutting off of Messiah. No matter if it doesn't work out mathematically, that's what the text says. Those two events happen within the 70th week. That's just how I would see it. And it's reiterated in 12:7 as well. I believe.
So let me read 26 again. So after the 62 weeks, an anointed one shall be cut off, and it shall have nothing. And the people of the prince who shall come shall destroy the city in the set apart place, and its end shall come with the flood. And until the end there shall be war, desolations are decreed. So like, yeah, I mean, for me, I definitely get what you're saying. I get what you're saying there for sure. I guess I'm just thinking that verse 26 seems to be general and that it's basically just describing what happened after the 69th week. So let's put it this way. I'll frame it this way. To me, 26 is just telling us what happens after the 69th week without necessarily placing these events within, the 70th week or whatever. Now, of course, we know that some of these things do happen during the 70th week, specifically the destruction of the city, the set apart place. But for me, I still don't think that means that everything has to occur within the 70th week. But I mean, yeah, I get it can be a difficult passage, but I think Daniel 12 helps out with this because Daniel 12 really gives us the whole timeline if you look at it, because it tells us from the time the abomination of desolation is set up the abomination of desolation is set up and the sacrifice is taken away. You basically got 1290 days and then kind of this 1300 and some change days until like the very end. And so that's actually telling us, okay, this is the middle of the week, or this is the middle of the 70th week. My thought process is the first half of that week is actually the persecution of the believers under Nero, because, it talks about, judgment begins at the household of God. We see Nero and the persecution of the saints occur within that period. And then I see them as being delivered when Christ returns in 66. They're caught up, and then wrath is poured out on those who didn't believe during the time of 66 to 70.
Now, in Daniel 9, there is no mention of the cutoff in the midst of the week. Is that correct? That the midst of the week is in another part of Daniel, not in 9?
Yeah, I might have misspoke there, I think.
No, in verse
I'm not
27 it says, in verse 27 it says, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week.
Okay, I see half of the week. So, okay, midst. All right.
Well, my lovely King James says, midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease.
Right.
Who's the one who caused it to cease? It was obviously Jesus, with his sacrifice being final.
See, but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing with that. That I would say it's an assumption. I mean, I say a lot of these things are assumptions, but this is what I would say. If you combine it with Daniel 12, I think you'll see that that's not the case. Or let's put it this way, that's not what was intended.
Well,
okay, so
that's
and let me explain. Just because I mean, here's the thing. I know, we as believers, we immediately jump to, okay, well, what put the sacrifice to an end? Was it Christ? Okay, well, obviously we know Christ was the end of that whole old covenant administration of sacrifices, all of that. But if you just think about it, even just from a physical and what was actually going on, the sacrifices did not technically stop at that time, but they actually did officially, like physically, come to an end, I believe, in 66 AD. But also more so than that, because that's all speculation that going outside of the text. But internally, if you go to Daniel 12, I think the key thing there is I think it's a direct parallel to what we see in 9. So if you go to Daniel 12 and you look at verse, let's see here. Okay. Verse 11. So Daniel 12:11, right? And then just think about what we just read in Daniel 9 and the fact that it's talking about, it combines two things, the abomination of desolation and the sacrifice coming to an end. Well, let's look at what Daniel 12 says. Verse 11, it says, and from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. But go your way until the end, for you shall rest and shall rise to receive your reward at the end of the days. And I probably actually should have read farther, but the idea and what we see in this passage is that this is talking about the daily sacrifice being taken away and the abomination of desolation. These are concurrent events. And then from that point till the time of the end, like the very end, the resurrection of the dead, all of that, or the general resurrection of the dead, righteous and unrighteous, is 1290 or 1300 days to the very end. So like, if you look at it from that standpoint, that can't be talking about Christ taking away the sacrifice. It would have to be something else within that 3.5 year time frame, I'd say.
Right. Well, there's a couple ways you could read that there. You know, from this to that, or from this and that till, like, you know.
Well, you have here there's two he's. There's Messiah, and then there's people of the prince. So there's the prince, and the very next he mentioned to that. To the prince is he will make a firm covenant with many from 1 week. But in the middle of the week, he will put a stop to the sacrifice and grain offering on the wing of abominations that will make desolate. So this would be during the war, Vaspian or Titus, but in 70, the sacrifices were stopped. Before that, I forget what year they were stopped for the nations and for the emperor, and that's when things got heated. It might have been 67.
Right.
Armin, do you have a parallel reference on Daniel 12:10 to Revelation 22:11?
Let me take a look.
Because it says the exact same thing, and Daniel that might 12, put it in a better timeline.
Okay, Daniel 12:10, Revelation. Actually, I don't think I do. But you said Revelation 22:11.
Okay.
Let's see here.
After that word.
See, he who acts unjustly, let him act unjustly. He who is filthy, let him be filthy still. He who is righteous, let him do righteousness still. Who is set apart? Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, let me see.
Because now you go to Daniel 12, verse 10.
Mm-hmm. Be purified. Oh, okay, right. Okay. Many shall be purified and cleansed and refined, but the wicked shall act wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand.
So that might put Daniel 12 in a timestamp. That might be a timestamp there. Because it's invoking Daniel in Revelation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to some extent, I would definitely say, like, I would agree with that in the time frame that I'm seeing it in, with that being, let me see here, purified and cleansed, none of the wicked shall understand. Yeah, and at the same time, I could also see that spanning even farther back, technically there, but I do think this is like, Revelation 22:11, I think, is telling us of the tail end, because, I mean, just the time period in which it was written, I mean, I'm thinking probably like 62, 63-ish, or anywhere between 62 and 64, I'd say. And so from that perspective, like, they were probably filling up the cup of their wickedness, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So you ready for Daniel 10 now, that you guys are all skipping ahead to 12?
Did you change your mind on the gap theory, anyone?
Well, there was a big gap right there. You just skipped from 10 to 12.
Well, it's because it's supporting. And are we still some gaps, some no gap, or did we all go gap?
I don't think there's a gap.
Yeah.
Why? Just because you count in a row?
I know how to count. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not 1, 2, 3, 5,000.
I was like firm that there were no gaps, and now I'm sort of like on the fence, but it's that this is the only time we see a gap. So that's where I'm sort of like still leery.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you were saying earlier. You know, in Genesis, it doesn't say like on the first day, on the second day, on the third day, on the 4,000th day.
So I got a question. Well, let me see here. what are, I'm trying to think of other times where we see this like kind of long laid out prophetic history as an example. You kind of get what I'm saying? Like,
Right. There
do
was
we
the prophetic
see,
history of the 70 years in captivity, or what that was. There was the 490 years the Egyptians had over the
right,
Israelites.
right.
All those times, and I don't see gaps in those. So if there's
Okay, yep.
something else you can bring to my mind and show me, yeah, there's a gap, then it's going to be exactly like where I was introduced with a full preterism argument. If you can show
Hmm.
me the hyperbolic or apostolic language and it didn't occur exactly like it said it would, then yeah, you've got a point. And
Right.
so
Like,
Yeah,
that's where I'm at now.
if there's a
I
gap,
got you.
there's totally a gap, but like between Daniel 9 and Daniel 10, like I could just make one up. Oh, you didn't see
No, I get what you're
Daniel
saying.
9 and Daniel 10? It's called a space. Didn't you see that? Space. But no, you guys ready to read 10? You want to do 10 or no?
Yeah, we can do 10. In fact, I kind of look at Cyrus as being one of the anointed ones.
I don't know. Like it's only 21. It's only the next chapter 11 is very huge, but this one's only 21. You want to split it, or you want to? It's been a while since we've heard your beautiful reading, Stacy.
I'll do it. I can do it. We got to get through Daniel before the Lutherans catch up with us. I don't want them to catch up with us.
All right, so you need the practice. Okay,
Okay, you ready?
we're ready whenever you are.
In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a word was revealed to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar. And the word was true, and it was a great conflict. And he understood the word and had understanding of the vision. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 weeks. I ate no delicacies, no meat or wine entered my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all for the full 3 weeks. On the 24th day of the first month, as I was standing on the bank of the great river, that is the Tigris, I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a man clothed in linen, with a belt of fine gold of Uphaz around his waist. His body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze, and the sound of his words like the sound of a multitude. And I, Daniel, alone saw this vision, for the men who were with me did not see the vision, but a great trembling fell upon them, and they fled to hide themselves. So I was left alone and saw this great vision, and no strength was left in me. My radiant appearance was fearfully changed, and I retained no strength. Then I heard the sound of his words, and as I heard the sound of his words, I fell on my face in deep sleep, with my face to the ground. And behold, a hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. And he said to me, O Daniel, man greatly loved, understand the words that I speak to you, and stand upright, for now I have been sent to you. And when he had spoken this word to me, I stood up trembling. Then he said to me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. The prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, but Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I was left there with the king of Persia, and came to make you understand what is to happen to your people in the latter days. For the vision is for the days yet to come. When he had spoken to me according to these words, I turned my face towards the ground and was mute. And behold, one in the likeness of the children of man touched my lips. Then I opened my mouth and spoke. I said to him who stood before me, O my Lord, by reason of the vision, pains I have come upon me, and I retain no strength. How can my Lord's servant talk with my Lord? For now no strength remains within me, and no breath is left in me. Again, one having the appearance of a man touched me and strengthened me. And he said, O man greatly loved, fear not. Peace be with you. Be strong and of good courage. And as he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, Let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Then he said, Do you know why I have come to you? But now I will return to fight against the prince of Persia. And when I go out, behold, the prince of Greece will come. But I will tell you what is inscribed in the book of truth. There is none who contends by my side against these except Michael, your prince.
I love that end part. That's mysterious, but let's start at the beginning. Whew. That was quite a bit. I mean, did you notice that all of Daniel so far is like in the year of this guy, in the year of that guy, in the whatever year of this guy, in the whatever year of that guy? Like, you did see that, right? Like,
I've noticed that. Right.
because chapter 5, 6, 7, 8 says in the third year of the reign of Belshazzar. But number 7 says in the first year of Belshazzar. Number 6 says Darius. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems like in the this year and that year.
I do think it's in chronological order, though.
I think so too. I would hope so, rather.
But Daniel has been chopped off and hacked away because they were afraid some things were added to it. You've got Baal the dragon and Susanna.
So yeah, right. But you just read this, right? You just read 10, right? So it says in the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia. Cyrus, the thing was revealed to Daniel. And then that's verse 1. It says blah blah blah, like it's a caption, right? And then in verse 2 it says, in those days I, Daniel. What do you think about that? You think like Daniel wrote verse 2, but like not verse 1? Verse 1 was added by some people who were like...
Yeah, I agree. I think that 1 has been put in there by the scribe or something because Daniel would not refer to himself in the third person.
Right? It's like, so I, Daniel, writing a story. We should do that, shouldn't we? Just to mess with people in the future.
A lot of people, I mean, listen to old plays and stuff like that. They would say that a lot in Old English.
Like, can you give me an example?
Yeah. I'm just thinking the plays that I've seen before, they'd be like, I, the great king, do this, or they would preface it.
Yeah,
so
they have an I. Right.
In there per se, but it could be just like, a translation.
Right, but I mean, you don't have Romeo, Romeo, where art thou, Romeo, and then Romeo says, Romeo is here. He wouldn't say it that way. He wouldn't refer to himself in the third person. But there's multiple times where you clearly see that they're talking in first person when they go I, and then they state their name.
Well, wouldn't it be weird though if you said in those days I, it makes it more clear if you add the person's name.
Right.
Because if you say like in those days Daniel was mourning 3 full weeks, so that'd be a little weird for you to write that about yourself. But then if you just put in those days I was mourning, then the person reading it might be like, well, who's I? So I don't think it's weird to have it both in there.
Right, but he's talking about verse 1 where there is no I. It's referring to Daniel in the third person like it's a narrator in verse 1. Otherwise, it would say that the word was revealed to me, Daniel. But it just says the word was revealed to Daniel.
It could be because see where it says Belshazzar? It could be just because he's like, okay, well, they're calling me Belshazzar, but, my real name's Daniel.
Well, no. Well, okay, yeah, Belteshazzar was Daniel's name in the one language, but
that's what I'm saying. So he's just clearing it up,
But you use the word my, and my's not in there. No personal pronoun, first person singular pronoun is in that verse 1. However, there is in verse 2.
Well, there are two different names too. One is
And also, you've got, it says right here, it refers to Daniel in the third person, where it says, and he understood the word that had been, the word and had understanding of the vision. So it said it would have been better for it to been, and I, Daniel, understood the word. But it says, and he understood. So that's the reason why it looks like Daniel 10:1 has been added by a narrator for clarification. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
It kind of seemed like in a.
Have you ever referred to yourself as he?
Just depends. If I was writing like a book or something, I might. But just in general speech, I wouldn't.
And see, in verse 3, you've got I ate no delicacies, nor did I anoint myself. So
Where did you see he? I wasn't sure where you saw that.
Verse 1, at the very end, 1b.
Oh, it was given to him or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like the like an angel or something might be talking in verse 1.
Or it could have been a narrator. I'm thinking it's, after Daniel had had his writings, that someone said, well, let me make clear that this is at this time, and that this is what occurred to Daniel, and then put in Daniel's words right after that. So it was for clarification. Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. I still see it as inspired word. It come from a different person, not just from Daniel by itself.
Right.
We noticed the same thing in Revelation chapter 1. There was a period where it looked like that was a narrator that added that. What is significant on the 24th day of the first month? Is that a feast day?
It's the 24th day of the first month?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no, I don't think so. Because, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there's any feast day that falls there. Let me see. There's a corner. Yeah, I don't think there's any feast day.
There is a feast day in the first month, though, isn't it?
Yes. What, Passover? Is that?
Yeah, it's Passover.
Yeah, Passover is so 14th. What is it? 14th or 15th would be the first day of unleavened bread, and then it would go to seven days from there, which would I know it wouldn't get us to the 24th, but
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually say it doesn't really describe a vision other than the person, right? It's not giving like a 70-week or prophecy or anything like that, or what the man is actually saying, really, except when he's talking about Michael. And this is the reason why I look at Michael as a title, one who is like the Most High, because I see that as Christ, because he's the prince of the people.
I second that. I agree. At least most times.
I would have to disagree.
It's a pretty strong belief I have right now. The way I believe today, this is a pretty strong belief I have right now. So
yeah.
It's going to be very difficult to persuade me otherwise.
We'll start out with a drop of water on your forehead, and then we'll slowly hit you with the lotion.
Yeah, it ain't gonna work.
Oh man, that's funny. Let's see here. I'm trying to see.
But was it the next chapter, the previous? Didn't it say the angel flew?
I don't know. The one thing I've come to see on this is that I mean, I think this fits perfectly with the prevailing belief amongst the Jews that that there were, angels or messengers over the nations, or distributed over the nations. Even the really the LXX even makes that more clear than the Masoretic text. When it says that Yahweh, what is it? He has distributed people according to the sons of God, or actually I think it says the angels of God or messengers of God in that. But if you just read, Jewish literature, they definitely believe that there were governing angels more or less that were over different kingdoms and things like that. In fact, that reference I put out, it was maybe some weeks ago, about what is it? The prince? No, I'm sorry, the prince of this world. And I think there's an actual Hebrew term for it. It's the what is it? Sar Ha'olam, and that was 100%. At that time, everyone would have understood that to mean Satan. And this along this same line or theme of these messengers who were cast down and had dominion, or that were given dominion over various nations.
Sure, I have no doubt that they were believing that at that time, but that was after the captivity, just like they brought the golden calf from Egypt, the concept of that.
Yeah. No, I definitely get you there. I think just for me, I think that one of the biggest things is that, Christ, I mean, now we could say that Christ just went along with it just to go along with it, but I mean, I would say he would be feeding it, if anything, based on, a lot of his teachings. I saw Satan falling from heaven and, this whole interaction, the temptation and all that, but it's my take.
We don't have anything that he wrote, we just still see it through the eyes of different men too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I get you. I understand, because that's
true.
Traditional view. It does have a lot of text concerning his appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's some symbolism there too.
Deathly pale, I heard the sound of words.
Now, this is one of the text chapters that the Seventh-day Adventists were using when they were holding up their tents back in the 1800s. And they would say, all true prophets don't breathe, when they have the word of the Lord. So they would put a mirror. They would put a mirror underneath Ellen White's nose, and they'd say, "See here, she's without breath," where she'd basically just be holding her breath, I guess.
Oh wow, I never heard of that. Let's see here. What is verse 12? I was kind of trying to read through everything because I was walking as we were reading, but let me see again. He said, "Do not fear, that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before your Elohim. Your words were heard. I have come because of your words." So I think this is a really good passage here. Talks about you set your heart to understand. So he had a heart to understand, and he humbled himself. Right. Yeah, he humbled himself, and due to that, I mean, that's where we see, was it your words were heard, and I have come because of your words. So, I don't know, I think of when Christ talks about, basically praying, or praying, kind of that concept of praying without ceasing. I think Paul said that, but this idea of continual prayer, this James, I think, talks about the fervent prayer of a righteous man, or the effectual prayer of a righteous man, availeth much. And so I think this really speaks to that. And definitely a model for us.
Right.
In verse 11, was Daniel like knocked to the ground physically, or is he standing in his vision? Because the other men seemed to be that they were kind of knocked down, but they didn't see the vision.
They ran away.
Yeah. Reminds me of
did they run away?
Yeah, they ran away.
In verse 11, though, is Daniel like standing upright in the vision, or is that like physically doing that?
So verse 7 is the one where it says they ran away.
They fled to hide themselves.
It's kind of similar to Acts 9 with Paul. It says the men who traveled with him stood speechless, hearing the sound, but seeing no one. One saw the vision, but the men who were with me did not see the vision. The great trembling fell on them, and they fled to hide themselves.
Kind of weird, they must have saw something.
Yeah, they would have had to
have seen different. Something. Yeah, because they fled for a reason on this occasion. Well, I don't know. That's weird. So, like, say alone they saw the vision, for the men who were with me did not see the vision, for a great trembling. Okay, so what made them tremble? His body was
like Christ.
A great amazement fell upon them, but they couldn't see it, but they knew something.
It was a man and by the river that has kind of the description kind of that fits Christ.
Mm.
And he gets his mouth touched, which reminds me of Isaiah.
Mm.
It looks like he probably was knocked to the ground literally and stood up literally, I think. In verse 8, looks like he was knocked to the ground.
This could also be like every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess kind of thing. Because anytime anyone has seen a person with eyes as lamps of fire, they fall prostrate.
This really kind of makes me think of like, you hear of all these, visions and stuff that people have today. And I don't know, some of them that I've heard, I mean, I haven't looked into too many of them, but like, it seems the thought that comes to my mind are people seeing like angels or Christ or whatever. And it's kind of like this buddy experience.
Yeah.
But in here, like, or really throughout scripture, like there's a fear and like great reverence, like when they see these visions. And it's not like, oh yeah, this angel was, just being really cool and buddy and stuff, or anything like that.
Yeah, when I was in a somewhat Pentecostal church, and I'd heard all of these angel viewings and stuff, I prayed and prayed that I wanted to see an angel. Now I wouldn't dare pray about something like that.
Yeah.
Is there something in particular in Daniel 10 that points to this that fits with Daniel 9, though?
I think Daniel 10 is almost kind of like an introduction to why he's going to get the vision in 11.
Yeah, chapter breaks are artificial, and so 10 really
Yeah.
can't be. You can't really do 10 without 11. We should do 11 too, since
Yeah.
this sets up 11
But you
for
don't
us.
think 10? You don't think 10 goes with 9?
No, no, because it has a completely different timestamp in the third year of
That's
Cyrus,
true.
king of Persia.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what about the end part though in 10?
Let's see. You
Because
said
it didn't it say this would be in the latter days in 10?
Yeah, or 14 talks about, now I have come to make you understand what shall happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision refers to future days. So I think that's speaking forward. I mean, like all of it's, I mean, a lot of it's from seven, actually, no, further than seven, two, is it two or three with the vision of, what is it, the idol or whatever, and the head and the body and all that stuff. Like that's talking about the latter days. I think seven, obviously nine, all of it's kind of pointing to that. I think it's just framing different parts. Like 12, not nine really gives us this point forward. I think
Right, there's a mandatory 2-year gap at least, a 2-year forwarding from Daniel 10 to 9. It has to be at least 2 years. We don't know when Darius was dethroned and when Cyrus started. So, but we do know that in this first year of Darius, so we've got Darius, but then we've got in the third year of Cyrus.
Right.
So it would have to be at least 3 years, really. If Daniel 9, at the end of Daniel 9, Darius was completely overthrown, and then Cyrus takes over at that point, it has to be at least 3 years from Daniel chapter 9 to Daniel chapter 10.
What Darius? There's no Darius.
In chapter 9, verse 1.
Yeah, I get that, but like they're in history, according to history, there's no Darius.
Remember, we said Darius was a title. You're the one that told us that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to call him the son of Ahasuerus.
Yes, that guy. Yeah, there you go. Ahasuerus, that guy.
So Darius can be a title, but Michael can't. I get you. Okay.
No,
right.
no. It says that it's the son of that guy, and that guy is a guy that history recognizes. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, never mind.
Any volunteers to read 11? Oh my goodness, it's 45. It'll have to be split up.
Yeah, that one's 45. Definitely has to be split up unless somebody's feeling incredibly brave.
I want Chris to read.
I think Chris should read too because he's been a little slack.
We can popcorn it. We can do by I've got like chapter paragraphs here that should make it easy to.
Yeah, we could pause in between those. I've got like 1 through 4.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I've got 1 through 4, and then 5. Do you have 5 and 6 together?
No, I've got 5 to 28.
Oh wow, okay.
But I'm in the logos, so
okay.
5 and 6 are together.
Okay. Well, I'll just start reading, and then I'll stop at 4. We can start from there, I guess.
Okay.
So Daniel 11:1. It says, "And as for me, in the first year of Darius the Mede, I stood up to support and strengthen him. And now what I show you is true. Behold, there shall rise 3 more kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer than all of them. And when he has grown strong through his riches, he shall stir up all against the reign of Yawan, and a powerful king shall arise, who shall rule an extensive empire and do as he pleases. When he shall arise, his reign shall be broken up and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of the heavens, but not to his posterity, nor according to his authority with which he ruled, for his reign shall be uprooted and will go to others besides these."
I just see that screaming as Alexander.
Yeah, and what Xerxes in for the Persians.
Mm-hmm. because it was broken up to his 4 generals, Alexander's.
Yeah, that is my understanding.
Correct. And this is from the time that Daniel's being told these things. So, yep, there shall be 4 more standing up after
Didn't we
the.
already do Daniel 11?
Yeah, I feel like we did like pretty recently ago.
Yeah, I thought we did 11.
Well,
Not officially. No, it was just in a discussion.
yeah, you guys like to ping pong. You like to play ping pong.
It was not taking Daniel 11 in its complete context. It was taking it for because it was to prove a point of this particular part. So it wasn't in its wholeness. It was just partial. But I can read 5 through 28.
Okay.
And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of their princes shall prevail against him, and shall obtain a great dominion. And after his years they shall associate. And the daughter of the king of the south shall come to the king of the north to make agreements with him. But she shall not retain power of arm, neither shall his descendants stand, and she shall be delivered up, and they that brought her, and the maiden, and he that strengthened her in these times. But out of the flower of her root there shall arise one in his place, and shall come against the host, and shall enter into the strongholds of the king of the north, and shall fight against them, and prevail. Yea, he shall carry with a body of captives into Egypt their gods with their molten images, and all their precious vessels of silver and gold, and he shall last longer than the king of the north. And he shall enter into the kingdom of the king of the south, and shall return to his own land. And his sons shall gather a multitude among many, and one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through, and he shall rest and collect his strength. And the king of the south shall be greatly enraged, and shall come forth, and shall war with the king of the north, and he shall raise a great multitude, but the multitude shall be delivered into his hand. And he shall take the multitude, and the heart shall be exalted, and he shall cast down many thousands, but he shall not prevail. For the king of the north shall return, and bring a multitude greater than the former. And at the end of the times of years, an invading army shall come with a great force and with much substance. And in those times many shall rise up against the king of the south, and the children of the spoilers of your people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, and they shall fail. And the king of the north shall come in and cast up a mound and take strong cities, and the arms of the kings of the south shall withstand, and his chosen ones shall rise up, but there shall be no strength to stand. And he that comes in against him shall do according to his will, and there is no one to stand before him. And he shall stand in the land of beauty, and it shall be consumed by his hand. And he shall set his face to come in with the force of his whole kingdom, and shall cause everything to prosper with him. And he shall give him the daughter of women to corrupt her, but she shall not continue, neither be on his side. And he shall turn his face to the islands, and shall take many, and cause princes to cease from their reproach. Nevertheless, his own reproach shall return to him. Then he shall turn back his face to the strength of his own land, but he shall become weak and fall, and not to be found. And there shall arise out of his root one that shall cause a plant of the kingdom to pass over his place, earning kingly glory, and yet in those days shall he be broken, yet not openly, nor in war. One shall stand in his place who has been set at naught, and they have not put upon him the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in prosperously, and obtain the kingdom by deceitful ways. And the arms of him that overflows shall be washed away as with a flood from before him, and shall be broken, and so shall the head of the covenant. And because of the leagues made with him, he shall work deceit, and he shall come up and overpower them with a small nation. And he shall enter with prosperity, and that into fertile districts, and he shall do what his fathers and his fathers' fathers have not done. He shall scatter among them plunder and spoils and wealth, and he shall devise plans against Egypt for a time. And his strength and his heart shall be stirred up against the king of the south with great force. And the king of the south will engage in war with the great and very strong force, but his forces shall not stand, for they shall devise plans against him. And they shall eat his provisions and shall crush him. And he shall carry away armies as with the flood, and many shall fall down slain. And both as for both the kings, their hearts are set upon evil, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end is for a fixed time. And he shall return to his land with much substances, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall perform great deeds and return to his own land. So this is like a continuation battle of the king of the north and the king of the south fighting one another.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, this is like king of the north, king of the south, back and forth over many years, and the king of the north and the king of the south are different kings.
Now, I did see a YouTube video where it was talking about this period, and there was one king that he gave his daughter to the other king, and he married the prince, and he was supposed to have the daughter corrupt the prince, but actually the daughter turned against her own father.
I think you're talking about Berenice or something.
I don't know their names. It's been a long time since I've seen that video. So.
Yeah, totally. It's the one by Bruce Gore. Good stuff. Yeah, no, totally. That's what I think is happening here. This whole king of the north, king of the south is the inner. After Alexander the Great, after all that, that's the whole history up until Rome.
Right.
How I see it. That's how
I agree. Yeah, I see it that way too.
It goes right into Rome when it says the ships of Kittim. Like that's when Rome comes
in. Yeah, what verses? Oh, you said okay. You said you're thinking 29 starts Rome, or I mean like 30.
I finished at 28.
Okay.
All right. So my portion was the thing. It says warring kings of the north and the south.
Okay.
So that's what I see. 5 to 28. So.
Okay. Does somebody else want to grab 29? No, I can grab it if needed.
What does your title say? Mine says the Northern Kings Blasphemies.
So, I don't have titles in here, but I'm assuming my logos would say the same, though. Yeah, my logo says Northern Kings Blasphemies.
I wonder what the old King James says. Hint, hint, hint.
Let's see. Let's find out.
Well, we've got a brother here that has that Bible. He could read it for us. Hint, hint, hint.
Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I have the 1611. Like, which one do you want me to read? Which one?
1611 would be fine.
No.
Just if you come across the word caves, make sure you don't say cause.
I'll be sure not to do cause. But you're talking about chapter 10, 11. You're talking about Daniel 11 something?
29 through.
Wait, 11, 29 through.
29 through 39. That's 10 verses. You could do that.
Holy geez, really? The whole thing is necessary?
10 verses? You don't want to give me 10 verses?
I mean, I can. It's just the. Okay, it says at the time appointed he shall return. At the time appointed he shall return and come towards the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter. but the ships of Chittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and shall return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. They shall take away the daily sacrifice, which is in weird letters, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. Okay. and they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. Now when they shall fall, they shall be holpen with a little help. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries. And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them, and to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. And the king shall do accordingly, one king singularly, and the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. I'm not sure how to read that, but oh well. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. There's definitely a note next to that. And the God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, silver, with precious stones, and pleasant things. That's your 38. There you go.
39. One more.
Oh, you want one more? Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. And he shall cause them to rule over many. He shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain.
Is there any historical thing of this emperor or great king that chose a god that his fathers didn't choose, or anything like that? Are you saying this is the Roman period, Albert?
Yeah, that's pretty much how I understood it.
The Cyprians?
This is definitely into that because it's the king of the north and king of the south, and the ships of Chittim changes it. That's where the change
that's how I'm seeing it.
And then it goes into the Romans after that. Like there's a wicked change right there. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm thinking Augustus is 36 though.
Yeah, something like that. You know,
36 Augustus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's definitely switching from the Greeks to the Romans, or whatever you want to, from Alexander's troop into the Romans. Like, there's definitely a switch taking place. The whole king of the north, king of the south thing is the switch.
Okay. I noticed though many times it says at the appointed time. You know, that's
It
almost like looks like
appointed time. Like there was a time
like it was
this.
preordained.
Yeah, well, right, but see, like, did the Lord say, like, oh, Alexander, you're going to conquer this guy, that guy, and that guy. Maybe he did. But guess what? He didn't tell him how exactly he was going to do it. He didn't tell him in his daily life, like, Alexander, you're going to make a left right here. Nope, not right here, but over here, you're going to make a left.
Okay, so you're saying that no matter what strategy he took, it could
Yes.
be the most piss poor strategy or the best strategy,
Correct.
but it still would have occurred at the appointed time.
I think so. Yeah, he would.
All
Yeah.
right.
So
Okay.
that's how I see it. Even if it was the worst strategy ever, for whatever reason, it worked. I don't know. How do you see it?
That that king decided this is what I want to do, and then his steps were directed by the Lord, and that he reached at that point at that point in time.
I mean, but come on, dude. Think about it. This is Daniel that's being told these things. Daniel lives like Alexander wasn't even close to being born yet. So like, think about that for a hot minute.
Right. So the whole that is magnificent in itself. You know,
Alexander wasn't even remotely thought of in your minds, but it already happened according to the Lord, as far as I can tell.
I could definitely see verse 40 as being Rome.
Yeah. I'd definitely say so, which is really what takes us into, or really from that point down, it takes us into Daniel 12.
Right, and Daniel 12 is all about that last century.
Exactly.
Hence why we really should read it all in one swoop, but whatever. We can always save that. Yeah.
It's your turn, Armin, to read 40 through 45.
I'll read 40. All right, so it says here, and at the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall invade countries and pass through like a flood, and he shall enter into the beautiful land and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall be delivered out of his hand, Edom, Moab, and the chief of the sons of Ammon. And he shall reach out his hand on other countries, and the land of Mitzrayim shall not escape. But he shall have control over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the riches of Mitzrayim and the Libyans, and the Cushites shall be at his feet. But news out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him, and he shall go out with tremendous rage to destroy and utterly sweep away many. And he shall pitch his royal tents between the sea and the beautiful set apart mountain, yet he shall come to his end with no one to help him.
What was the relationship between Rome and Egypt? Was Egypt subjective to Rome? Was it one of its provinces, or?
So Egypt, and I'm not great with this, but Cleopatra was over Egypt. Like basically, I think they were somewhat.
It's the whole Mark.
Like,
yeah, you're right. It's the whole
right.
Cleopatra Mark Antony thing.
That was the Ptolemy, reign, which was that general.
Exactly. So I think they were somewhat like regent. I mean, like they were, because I don't know, were the Ptolemies at that point, were they under Rome, kind of like Herod was, like they were like regent kings, or did they actually have? I really don't know, but I do know that like so with Augustus and Antony, he was basically so after what was it, after Caesar or Julius Caesar died. Augustus ended up taking, like Rome, or like I guess what would be the western part of the empire, and then Antony was given the eastern part, which would have been Syria, and I guess those regions. And so when that happened, like Mark Antony and Cleopatra kind of came into an alliance there, and then ended up going against Augustus. So I do know that much. I just don't know if. And let's put it this way, I do know that after the battle, Augustus won, he was victorious, and then he took over Egypt at that point. So whether or not they were actually technically under the government of Rome to like a loose extent before, I'm not sure, but I know afterwards they definitely were subjected to Rome.
It wasn't Augustus, wasn't he Octavian, and then he changed his name to Augustus?
I believe that is correct.
Octavian.
Okay.
Octavian is Augustus.
Right.
That was Caesar's nephew.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Remember a long time ago they had this special of Rome on HBO or something. So that helped me out a little bit.
Yeah. There's definitely some good good videos that can be watched on that, or like I've come across every once in a while.
So what is this tabernacle being pitched in verse 45? Between
That's
the
a hard one.
seas and the holy mountain of beauty.
Yeah, I don't know. Like part of me would maybe assume that, Nero was, maybe it was Nero somehow, just based on the description. It says he shall come to an end with no one to help him. That could very well sound like Nero. I just don't know if it's supposed to skip that many people and then come down to Nero or
Well,
what.
I could see 44 being Nero for sure, because he was very paranoid, and it says, but rumors and anxieties troubled him.
Yeah.
I think he was the most paranoid emperor of them all, I believe.
It definitely seemed that, because I mean, basically, like everyone turned on him, at that point. So, like I mean, I don't think you see that kind of instability with the other Caesars. So, like, that's what would make me think that it's probably Nero. And then also, he's the one who has the biggest influence or he's one of the ones who has the biggest influence in the book of Revelation. But probably he probably does have the most, given that he is the one who is indicated to be the mark of the beast, or here is the symbol of his name, or all that. And he's the one who persecuted the saints, and so
that's where I would lean towards, is it would be Nero, which would even set Daniel 12 up even better, because it actually gives you even a more narrow time frame.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. I just think even if you don't know who that is, like, okay, so like let's put it this way. It's just, I don't know, that when you look at like the commentator, I think my theory is this: if commentators, like some of these people who really, really looked into history, were able to get past the tradition of this has to be future, I think we probably have a much better grasp on all these, like verses 36 through the end of the chapter, because like they nail. I mean, I think they nail everything above there, but then it's just like things get fuzzy when they're like, well, this is supposed to be the future, so this is ancient, this is Babylon, Rome, and like all that kind of stuff. But like I think if they were dug into the books that they had access to on some of the other stuff, I think they'd be able to get this straightened out. But
yeah, I agree.
Even still, though, if you even just like look at, even if you don't know, right? So even if you don't know verses 36, like if you go over to, Daniel 12 and you see like, okay, the things that were supposed to happen during this period, well, actually, no, maybe not, because like you can easily just say that this stuff is in the future, basically.
What I'd like to say is, okay, well, where is the 2,000-year gap in Daniel chapter 11? Between what verses is the 2,000-year gap?
Between
that
11
would be
and
a
12.
great question.
Yeah.
Well, in Daniel 11, you had mentioned that up to 30, up to about like 28 or something, that nails it by history.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere they're looking at the rest of this as future. So that would be a great question to ask: is where's the 2,000-year gap between the verses in Daniel 11?
Well, and what's interesting is I think, and I could be wrong on this, but I think some people were even thinking like some of the people, or some of the verses here could be talking about Antiochus Epiphanes or Epiphanes or whatever, and it's like that's going backwards at that point. So it's just kind of like, I think it's kind of like all over the place, really. It's like what but it's all because if you say it's Rome, then what the next chapter says. It's like at that time. So that means that if it's Rome, then at that time these things occurred, which is like, because you're talking about the resurrection of the dead, you're talking about the deliverance of the believers, all that stuff.
Like you also have to like, what does it mean when it says time of the end? Like how long is the time of the end? Is it like 45 minutes? Is it like 5 hours? Is it like a couple days?
Mm-hmm.
A couple years? Time of the end? Like what does that mean? Like time of the end? Time of the end of what?
I'd say that's a season.
How long does it take for the time of the end to be completed? Like a month, 2, 3,
Well,
a year? Like,
Parable of the
I
fig
would
tree.
I would say I think if you look at some ancient Hebrew like Jewish writings, the I think in the Dead Sea Scrolls or like at least in like the Qumran community writings, like they were believing that they were living in the time of the end. In fact, I think there were some things that I read that said even all the way up to like the Maccabean or like as far I guess back or forward, however you want to see it, as the Maccabean period was kind of like, or like maybe just after that,
well,
maybe just after that was
I think
the
you
time
read
of the end.
right at the end, yeah, like the Maccabees, right? You know, it says right here at the end of what you just read, but he shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. So you just look for some time in history where that kind of thing happens. But then it says, but tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Well,
Mhm.
well, where's that coming from? I mean, I don't know. I'm just out of the
Yeah.
east and the north. Like, who's that?
Yeah.
Well, and he shall come with great wrath and destroy many. That's Nero to me at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I'd see it. But yeah, I think this if any place where a gap is not appropriate, I think this would probably be the place here. But I mean, okay, so here's the other thing, right? Like even with that, right? Let's just say if you like look at Daniel 12 and you look at the abomination of desolation, the thing is, even if you just look at it from an audience relevant standpoint, then you're looking at, okay, well, that city was destroyed by Rome in AD 70. So it's like if you even just connect those dots, then you can see that, okay, well, that occurred at this time. So is it possible that this is what that was talking about?
I know the Lutherans are going to convolute chapter 11 and 12 ridiculously by putting portions of it in the future.
Yeah.
So
I
at
would
least
I would bring yeah. I
Go
would
ahead.
bring some points up. I would bring some points up to them at least to consider.
I will.
Like yeah, because it can it'll be helpful to them. I think even if you don't go all the way in, but I
I'm
mean
much more a subtle serpent. I'll plant
yeah,
seeds, you know.
I know.
I'm just curious. Can we maybe read like maybe I don't know if I like the way that these are separated here. You know, it's chapter 12 starts one way, but I you know how
I mean
I never like it when a sentence begins with and. You know,
you're right, and Armin made a really good point at that time. Well, what time is this? The
no,
time that was just been described.
can we read can we read 45 into 1? 45
Yeah.
into 1 as though it were one sentence.
Sure.
So
I'll I
okay.
can read it for us.
Cool.
45 into 1.
45 into 1. See what it
It
says.
says here, and he shall pitch his royal tents between the sea and the beautiful set apart mountain, yet he shall come to his end with no one to help him. And at that time, Michael shall arise, the great prince who watches over the sons of your people, and there shall be a time of distress unparalleled since the beginning of the nation until that time. And at that time, your people shall be delivered, everyone who shall be found written in the scroll. Okay, I'm so glad you made you made us read that because
Yes.
honestly, so here's the thing. So I think that solidifies like Nero for me even more because like I think I don't know, for a while I've just been looking at, okay, generally at that time, like the time of the Roman Empire, which is true.
Right.
But I think if you look at it more specifically, okay,
After the death of Nero.
Or not so much after the death, but like at the, because basically he was the one who caused some of this distress, especially like persecution on the saints while he was alive. But if you're looking at that general time, then it's a perfect lead in to verse 1 because that's when we see the time of great distress, if that makes sense. Like, or the beginning of that time of great distress on the believers, and then it carries into those who didn't believe as well. But the deliverance, all that stuff happened within that same short period, which I would think all of this is kind of describing the seventh week
that's what I'm saying,
or the
like,
70th week.
You really got to watch these breaks sometimes. Like, I really hate it when things begin with
Really, yeah.
So whenever I see "and" as the beginning, I'm like, wait, what does it say before that? Because I want to read that as one sentence, as though there was no break.
Yeah.
I think that was a good one that you just did there. And at that time, like, was at what time shall he stand up? Oh, what we read before in verse 45 and 44, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that time, we're out of tidings of the east and all these troubly things and all that, and tabernacles and the mountains. At that time, that time is when he should stand up, right? That's what it's really saying.
I'd agree. I think that is probably one of the worst breaks that you could have. But I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
When we have, I mean, that's the thing. Like Scripture, even unfortunately, like our Bibles that that we have today. I mean, like they're completely fine. There's nothing wrong with, but the artificial things that come from men, the breaks and things like that, especially on a verse like this, when you're already predisposed to believing that, okay, this is talking about some time in the future, and you just completely miss that, then it's
I think that a lot of those heresies wouldn't have existed if we didn't have the chapter breaks.
Yeah, that could be.
Because if you look at them, there were no verses, no chapters. It was just one long book.
But
we're gonna have to write the Bible without any breaks. Oh dear.
But I would say this though. I wouldn't go too crazy. Like I'm trying to rewrite it with no breaks, because here's the thing. Like there's an element to even just like a theme throughout Scripture that we see of like diligent searching. Nothing really is supposed to be easy, or like nothing we see is like really laid out easy. Like there's diligence required. For example, of all the the assemblies that Paul went to, we see him like really. Yep, the Bereans. We really see him give, some ups or props to them, because they really dug into things. So if we're too lazy to study things within context, and like the break should be no excuse. That's just an excuse for laziness ultimately, and say, oh, I didn't know because there was a break there. But it's like we have a responsibility as believers to go beyond that, and okay, well, what does the chapter before that say? So if you're not diligent, I guess if we're not diligent enough to do it with the breaks there, then I don't know if it's really going to make a difference if they weren't there.
Well, I would see that the breaks are there. So if I say to you John chapter 4, you're going to know it's the woman at the well. But if the break wasn't there, what would I do? I would just say the woman at the well.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That is true. And that's how they did it. My understanding is the Jews, they quoted one scripture, and then that gave you the context of the whole passage.
I am the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord. He didn't say, oh, Isaiah chapter 40 verse 9 or whatever that was.
Right. I think that is the best way to do it. We complicate it. I mean, I get it from an ease standpoint. I completely get it. And I think, I do think it has its uses, even like breaking down the verses and all that stuff. It does make it easier. However, also it's like a two-sided, sword, because you've got the one side of ease of use, but then you've got the other side of context. Like I think it's a lot easier to take verses out of context when you just have it as, okay, this one verse, like, chapter 1, verse 1, versus, okay, if you actually had to like spend the time to like, if I copy and pasted a verse and shared it with you all, right? If I just pulled that verse, like I would be more inclined to look at the context versus just sending, that one verse out of context. Yeah, because it wouldn't even be a verse. It would just be. It's just like I'm just taking the sentence out of this longer paragraph or text.
So that does at least help us to go one above and one below. Otherwise, we'd have to search it, or we should know it well enough to know, oh, this is in the first part or the third part of this section.
Yeah.
Right, that's how they used to do it. They weren't like, it's Isaiah 14. They were just like, it's in Isaiah.
As the prophet Isaiah said. Then
they would be like, Isaiah 14:7 said. They wouldn't get so hardcore about it. I don't know. Like the numbers, I do like the division. Like it does do like somewhat of a service at times, but at other times, I feel like the numbering and division system does it a disservice.
As long as we recognize that and we don't go so far off the line like Joshua, where he says, "Oh no, even the title descriptions are inspired." You
Oh
know,
my gosh! Like, dude, some of the ones I told you, like some of these, I have. We just had those for this. Daniel.
but I look at sometimes the verses are like the verse numbering is inspired because sometimes Hebrews 9:9,
Right.
Exodus 14:14. I just that just like
Well, ready?
thrills me.
See, this is the thing. Like, I don't think this is divinely inspired, but this is what it says in the King James according to how they understood it at the time. Yeah. It says for chapter 11, which we just read, the overthrow of Persia, starting verse 1, right? The overthrow of Persia by the king of Phrygia. And then it says 5, leagues and conflicts between the kings of the south and of the north. 30, starting in verse 30, the invasion and tyranny of the Romans. That's starting in verse 30, they have that.
That's what yours says. Yours calls it Romans.
Verse 30 it says for the ships of Chittim, which is exactly where I said. Remember, I said the ships of Chittim, when they come in, that's where the Romans come, because that's those guys.
That was, Kittim or Kittim was Rome. So I mean, like even that should give an indication of who we're looking at moving forward. Because I mean, you just look at the nations that followed each other. We've got, what is it, Babylon, Greece, or I'm sorry, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome. You don't have any gaps between there, and you see Rome come in there. But I once again, I just think the tradition is very strong to the point where it's like everything logical goes out of the window when you have to believe that Christ hasn't come yet and it's sometime in the future.
Right, and then in the last chapter here, 12. I don't know. I'll give you the caption for next time. It says, "Michael shall deliver Israel from their troubles." That's verse 1, and then in verse 5 it starts saying, "Daniel is informed of the times." That's the caption that I get for 12. Michael shall deliver Israel from their troubles. Well, see, that's where it's in, because Michael, well, it's not just some angel to me. Like, to me, Michael is Jesus. Like, although, no, I'm not going to say Jesus is an angel. That's not what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can.
Jesus was like the Most High, and especially after when he was coming back in his full glory with the trumpet, with the voice of the archangel, the prime messenger.
Yeah.
In Revelation. So
right. That's where I was going. Yeah, more like the prime messenger, the first, most chiefest, the archangel, if you will. Archangel meaning the first and foremost, right?
The first messenger.
So if you were the top or the chief or the first messenger, well, then you would be the head honcho. And in my opinion, that would be Jesus.
So who was Gabriel then?
That's a good question. I have yet to figure that out, because
that is a good question.
There's 2 instances where Gabriel appears. One is where Mary is being told that she's pregnant. Could very well be an actual legit angel named Gabriel. And then there's the other one, which is when Daniel is being told by Gabriel some things. But the Gabriel in that one, Daniel says, like, he says, the man that I saw in my vision. So, like, what's going on here? Is it an angel that's looked like a man? Or is it a man? Is it him? Like, what is it? Like, what's going on there? I don't know. Haven't worked that one out yet, but I will say it's very peculiar that there's 2 instances where there's a guy named Gabriel.
Gabriel just means the Lord is my strength, whereas Michael means who is like the Most High.
Right. There's 2 instances in particular.
And now Hebrew tradition, I think, has 12 archangels. There's Ariel.
You can't have
Uriel.
No, you can only have 1 archangel. Like, just like you can only have 1 president of the United States. You can't have 17 presidents of the United States. Like, It's one. It's one guy.
Now Christian tradition in most places there were three major archangels. There was Michael, which had
Yeah,
1/3 of heaven, and they were all the warriors.
but
Why you would need warriors in heaven, I have no idea.
let me
Hey,
ask,
hey.
Then there was
Remember what
Gabriel,
Yeshua
and
said.
where do all these stories come from? Like you
there was
Remember,
Gabriel.
remember,
He was the telecommunications. So these spirit beings had to have messages sent back and forth with one another. And he was he was the AT&T of heaven. And then Lucifer was the praise and worship. So he had 1/3, and they were all praising and worshiping God all the time.
don't forget, Yeshua said that if I needed or if I wanted, I could have what do we say 12 legions of messengers. So
Yeah.
I think there's a need for them. There must have been some need for them.
Yeah, that's right. He could have had 12 legions of messengers, no doubt.
Yeah, but would he have done the same thing that he did in the past? Is like he used Rome to punish Greece. He used Greece to punish Persia. He's used Persia to punish Babylon.
But now he's the head honcho. So now what?
And he used Egypt to punish the Israelites.
Yeah, but now he's the leader of the so now what? Now what? The head honcho. He's the commander of all the kingdoms, right? He took them all. So now what?
That would seem to be the case.
So who goes against who? What happens with what?
Oh man, I don't know on all that. There's a lot I'm still trying to figure out because I
don't think it works like it used to.
All right, so I have a question. Since we did cover verse 1, it's fair game.
Yeah.
So at 1, where it's talking about everyone that is written in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that Moses was talking to God about blot me out in the book of life. So is there like nothing in between from Moses all the way up until Daniel that now we're hearing about the book again? Or is there other mentioning of this book of life?
I mean, from my recollection, those are the only mentions of it. I think in the Old Testament.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. I can't think of any at the moment. So that's the reason why I was wondering is we not heard anything about the book until now from back in Moses' time.
All right. Yeah, I think that seems to be it. And then again in Revelation.
Right.
At that time, your people shall be delivered. And they were.
But now I would be interested in when we do cover Daniel 12 is what it looks like now, because is this only referring to 70 AD or so, or is there like now a continuation to where people that fall asleep into the dust of the earth shall awake to everlasting life on a continual basis? Or was this like a one-time event? And then where does that put us? And
So, I mean, I can share what, generally speaking, how I'm seeing it at this point. And that would be that I don't think there would be any more waking, like out of sleep or death, basically. If death and Sheol are truly done away with, then that would mean there is no more sleeping.
So you see verse 2 is 70 AD, and you see verse 3 as from that point forward.
No. So I would say, no, I would say like all of this. Let's put it this way. I'd say everything in Daniel 12 is ended by 70 AD at some point in 70 AD. And the reason I'd say that is because of what we see. Like as we'll read down Daniel 12, it actually gives us like a timeline of the end, or like what would be basically at what point. So everything we see in verses 1 through 2, and actually I'll just say 1 through 5. Everything we see in 1 through 5 it tells us exactly when that was going to be done by. So it's actually giving us an end to it. So I would say everything was accomplished by 70 AD. And then what we see now as it relates to like people dying is, I think there's just an immediate going to judgment, basically, like going before the Father or the Son. And then you either go into the kingdom or you go into, you know, everlasting punishment, the second death, the lake of fire, you know, Gehenna, however you want to, whichever a choice of words you want to use. I think that's what you see, because death, when we see in Revelation, it says that death, death is thrown into the lake of fire. Sheol is thrown, death is thrown into the lake of fire, I guess. Swallowed but Sheol gives up all the dead. Yeah, swallowed up. And I don't know, maybe it says death. No, I think it does say death and Sheol were thrown into the lake of fire, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I see those as being gone. Like the state of men being asleep in this holding place, I think is no more. I think that is ancient history at this point.
And I wonder how Daniel 12 relates to Isaiah 66.
Isaiah 66. I think this is about when was it 65? Hold on.
It might be 65.
Well, no, you may be thinking of 60. I was just trying to think of some things that were.
I'm thinking 65 is where the lion lays down, the wolf lies down with the lamb. That would be.
You're probably right.
During the first century before 70 AD, where
Right.
Paul is saying there's no difference between Jew and Gentile, kind of thing. So that's the reason why I didn't mention 65. But chapter breaks are artificial.
No, you know what? I was actually thinking of 60. The verse I was looking for was actually in 66, like where it talks about. I kind of see a lot of what we see in Isaiah, or especially like towards the
verse 16.
The end.
Verse 16 is a good one.
Okay, for by fire and by his sword Yahweh will execute judgment on all flesh, and the slain of Yahweh will be many. Like so, I mean, I see that as pretty clear judgment language, and I could easily see that being talking about 70 AD. Or 66 leading up to 70 AD, just everything that was going on there.
Right.
And so just to kind of share this, like the way that I see Isaiah, like 60, probably 65 and 66, and really a lot of these sections that are talking about the time of the end is like, I think you can read them and try and read them like chronologically, like as it, like, so basically like 1 is the earliest thing that happens towards the time of the end, all the way to 24, let's say, and that's the last thing. But like, I don't think so. I think I kind of see a lot of these verses as being like, it's talking generally about the time of the end, but it's not necessarily in sequential order, if that makes sense. Like, for example, verse 16 talks about like execute judgment on all flesh. But then if you look at verse 21, no, let's look at, let's see here. Start in verse 18. It says here, for I know their works and their thoughts. The time comes that I will gather all nations and languages, and they shall come and shall see my glory. And I will set a sign among them, and I will send such an escape of them to the such as escape of them to the nations, to Tarshish, Pul, and Lud, who draw the bow, to Tubal and Yawan, to the islands far off, who have not heard my fame nor seen my glory, and they shall declare my glory among the nations. And they shall bring all your brothers out of the nations for an offering to Yahweh on horses and in chariots and in litters and on mules and on camels to my set apart mountain Yerushalayim, says Yahweh. As the sons of Israel bring their offering in a clean vessel into the house of Yahweh. And I will also take some of them for myself, for priests and for Levites, says Yahweh. For as the new heavens and new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, says Yahweh, so your seed and your name shall remain. So I see that, even though we see like kind of the judgment talked about first in verse 16, I see this is talking about like the going forth of the gospel and like the believers going out of Jerusalem, going to the nations, and basically collecting a people for the Father and bringing them back to the New Jerusalem, really the New Jerusalem. Like, and it gives this physical language, but it's real. I'd say it's really talking spiritually. Like, so, you know, the horses and chariots and them coming back to Jerusalem, but not really not the physical Jerusalem, the heavenly.
We approach Mount Zion now.
Right.
Hebrews.
Right.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, we've only got one chapter left now, so I kind of feel like I'm in a safe zone now. I'm not so worried now because it's easy to do one chapter. So it's going to be at least 2 or 3 weeks before we get through Daniel with the Lutheran. So
you should be prepared.
but I'll keep you guys updated on that, on what they're saying, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to going through the book of Acts and pausing and going through the epistles when that is, if that's at all even possible, you know, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to do it. That would be cool. Just adds, I think, some perspective perhaps to a lot of things and what was going on. Like, I still haven't done it yet. I'm actually starting Acts in my my daily Bible reading, and it's going to be chronological, so I'll start doing that. But yeah, I definitely want to. It'll be interesting to see because I've never done it before.
I'm going to be